All right, Larry Kruger here from the Krug Show. We're at Salt River Fields, and we're going to do a little walking tour of one of my favorite stadiums, Salt River Fields. Giants go today against the Diamondbacks here in Salt River. And Kev, if you'll show the field, this is just an amazing field. Pretty new. It's shared by Colorado and Arizona. What I love about coming here is this berm right here. Look at this berm in the outfield. I mean, you know, you get a beer on a real hot day, you're sitting there, laying down, watching the game. I mean, this doesn't get too much better than this. I mean, if you love baseball, beautiful weather, you know, having a hot dog and a beer on a beautiful day and watching your team. We're going to watch the Giants and the D-backs later today. I'm fired up. Giants been playing, look pretty good to me. Luis Matos. Remember Luis Matos? He looks really, really good. But first, let's talk a little bit. What are we going to get into? We're going to get into the story of the day in the NFL, which is DK Metcalf has requested a trade from some of the Seahawks. And there's a lot of talk that, DK, the Raiders may try to get DK, try to pair him back with Pete Carroll. I think there's a very good chance. DK doesn't run the full tree, right? He runs go patterns, post patterns. He runs like 3 different routes, but he is big, strong, and fast. He's raw though, and you have to have. Once again, we're talking receivers. You got to ask, does this receiver do for you what you want him to do? And if you want him to run, Debo plays, gadget plays, stuff within 5 to 10 yards of the line of scrimmage, or any kind of precise route running ins and outs and breakers, 12 yards ins, 12-yard outs. I mean, the Niners love to run that 11-yard in or out. He's a down the field guy. He's a go pattern guy. You might throw it short to him on a hot route, like down the seam, but he's a vertical receiver. I just don't know if he fits the 49ers, but I do believe he'll wind up with a pretty good market because he's big, strong, and fast for sure. So that's the big story. DK Metcalf is officially out there in the market, and he's going to be sought after because he's one of the biggest, strongest, fastest receivers in all of pro football. All right, now we're going to go for a little walk. We'll go to another part of Salt River Fields here in Salt River. So another angle from Salt River that I love is this bullpen. I mean, you can stand right here down the line, and you've got the bullpen, you've got a close-up, catchers, pitchers, and you're still watching the game. I mean, you're watching the game, you can see the game, you got a great view of the field, and then you still have the bullpen. So I'm loving it. To me, this is a phenomenal setup. Right now, they're getting ready for the game, and they're squeezing the dirt in the outfield, and these guys are getting this bullpen ready to roll. All right, the big story today around the NFL, or one of the big stories connected to the 49ers with free agency approaching, is 2 names that have been kind of bubbled to the surface: Keenan Allen and Robert Woods. And I don't know how that helps you. I mean, one, I think it's foolish to think that Keenan Allen is not going to get paid top flight dollars. The smart players in the NFL, they say you're paid less than you're worth on your way up, and you're paid more than you're worth on your way down. And so bottom line is, in the NFL, the key is make sure you get that last contract if you can before you get out of the league. So I don't think Keenan Allen's going anywhere for some paltry sum to benefit the 49ers in the name of winning the Super Bowl. He would be a great replacement for Brandon Ayuk if you were going to keep Ayuk and not move off of him, and Ayuk was going to be better in future years, and you just needed somebody for this year to kind of replicate some downfield receiver. Maybe that works. Robert Woods, he's tough. He's a tough guy. He'd be good in your locker room. These guys would be great for young receivers coming into the league to kind of show them how. So if you want to have them for that reason, but for the kind of money that I think it would take to acquire these guys, and with John Lynch saying, hey, we need to get younger, faster, more dynamic, this isn't the route I would go. The route I would go is, day 3 of the draft, get yourself an extra draft pick. Round 5th round, 6th round, get in position to draft a guy like Dante Thornton from the University of Tennessee, who just ran 4.30 in the 40, and he's big and he's strong and he's raw, But in that locker room with Juwan Jennings there, I think Thornton in this offense with his measurables, that size and that speed, he's a vertical receiver. He's a little raw. You're going to have to coach him up. But that's what your coaches are for. And you have, this guy's a down the field guy. Another guy that I really, really like, and that's more of a day 3 guy. But on day 2, I'm a big fan, the more we get closer to the draft, of Isaiah Bond from Texas. I really like Isaiah Bond. He was a sprinter in high school. He was fantastic. He was the guy in the Iron Bowl who caught the game-winning touchdown at the end, from Milrow when they beat Auburn in overtime. And then he transferred to Texas. And Texas, there's other guys there. Obviously, Golden's there, and you've got other guys there. So he just didn't have quite the year that I thought he would have. But, man, don't sleep on Isaiah Bond, especially if you can get him in the 3rd round. He's a true vertical down the field, speedster. So I know people are talking about Robert Woods. I know they're talking about Keenan Allen. That's great. But the real solution is probably on day 2 and day 3 in the draft. Not in the 1st round, but Isaiah Bond, Dante Thornton. That combination is going to be cheaper, younger, more dynamic, and better. All right, now we're here behind the plate, and as you can tell, great ballpark. The proximity, if you're right behind the plate, your reaction, it's really, really close. So I don't know. I love this park. There's something about they got the little press box area. I don't know if Kev can show the press box area, but that press box area is all pretty cool. You got a little overhang. And then from the outfield, you're taking a look at that berm. You go berm, big berm, left all the way around to right. This is a killer spot, man. This is a killer spot. This is one of my favorite spots in the Cactus League. We will watch the Giants today take on the Diamondbacks in a battle of 2 NL West teams, and we'll watch that. But the big story that we want to talk about here is Maxx Crosby has just signed an extension, 3 years, over $100 million. And he's not going anywhere. And I don't think he was ever going anywhere, and he was never coming to the Niners. And I think all I would say is, if you had him coming to the Niners, it's just because you don't know Mark Davis and how he thinks and how he acts. There was no way he was coming to the Niners. They were not going to sell their most popular player to the 49ers. It just was never going to happen. But it really highlights, this decision that the Niners have. On one hand, that story's out there. So Crosby, you can take Crosby, take his name off the list. But I'm reading Nick Wagner earlier today on ESPN.com. Nick says that if Joey Bosa is released, the Niners most certainly will be a player for Joey Bosa. I think that fits their budget and their plan probably a lot better. And I would say this, the Tony Pauline report that we referenced last week about the Niners really liking Olufemi Oladejo. You can take that story to the bank, and I would say you might see the Niners go big body defensive tackle in the 1st round, maybe a Kenneth Grant, Walter Nolan, maybe Mason Graham if he fell to them, coming back with an Oladejo in round 2, and not addressing that offensive line to round 3. So just a thought, but Maxx Crosby gets the extension. He will not be coming to the 49ers. And lastly, we're down here to the left field line at Salt River and getting the field ready. It's going to be a beautiful day. It's going to be amazing. It's going to be amazing. Giants T-backs. We get that later today. And I'm really fired up to be here, hanging out with my boys, enjoying the beautiful day. All right, the story in Ninerland I think we got to talk about is Field Yates is saying that Brock Purdy's going to get paid, and he has leverage, but he doesn't have ultimate leverage, and that he's probably going to have more of a muted deal compared to the top deals.
Where are you at with what you're hearing on Brock Purdy and the potential for an extension with San Francisco?
Yeah, a couple of notes here is that if you think about last offseason and maybe even the offseason prior, a lot of times the best way to set a mark for a quarterback is to be a part of a conglomerate of quarterbacks that are getting paid at the same time, right? So within 2 offseason, or maybe even 1 offseason, we had Jalen Hurts, Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert, Tua, a few others that all got paid. And it was like, well, certainly each team probably believes their guy is the best. I think a lot of people would view many of those players as in a comparable range, right? Like when we talk about the 5 best quarterbacks in the NFL, usually Lamar and Jalen Hurts and Joe Burrow are all mentioned, right? So we're in that range. there aren't as many quarterbacks who are going to get paid this offseason as there have been in recent off seasons. And so for Brock, it's not like, hey, so I'm just making this up. If Bo Nix were eligible to sign an extension and he got 56, Brock may say, I've taken the team to a Super Bowl, let me get 57. That's a bad example because Bo obviously has played for just 1 year. But you get what I'm saying, that there's not a lot of other guys. On top of that is, and this is important to note, obviously the 49ers have the ultimate discount with Brock Purdy, just over $5 million this year. They also have 2 tags at their disposal over the next 2 years. 3 technically, but the third becomes very prohibitive price-wise. So if you're San Francisco and you're saying that for the next 3 years, including 2025, we control Brock Purdy's rights for 3 years and less than $100 million, then if Brock says, hey, I want to make $61 million, which would be a slight raise of $1 million over what Dak Prescott makes per year, it's just a different leverage point. Dak had so much leverage over the Cowboys last year because he had the no tag clause and his cap number was very large for Dallas. And Dak had been there for a long time and the opportunity cost was significant for them. I'm not saying that Brock does not have leverage. The best leverage he has, he's an awesome player. I just don't know that it's a guarantee that Brock is going to sign a record-setting deal just because he is the latest quarterback to get paid, which is, in a lot of cases, how the highest paid quarterback comes to be.
Now, there's lots of different things to say about it. Personally, I just think that, I think that once again, we talked about this months ago. I said the Niners are going to come in with an initial offer around 45. The agent's going to be talking big time, 60, 65. They're going to settle right in the middle. I think it's going to get done. It's going to get done on time. It's going to be a huge deal. It's going to give him, I would say, north of 50 million, but north of 55 million, but south of 60 million. The team will have some protections. It will take care of Brock. I think that deal's going to get done. I think it's going to get done in a short amount of time. He's a competitor first and foremost. He's not going to want to miss any time, any OTAs, and he's just not going to miss it. I know enough about the guy to know that he's going to be there. So the details, it's going to get revved up and amped up here in the next couple, weeks. I think ultimately, if it was me and we talked about this 2 weeks ago, he said, what is the deadline for getting the Brock Purdy deal done? Well, there's no true hard deadline. But if you are going to take some other part of your money and get a piece or two in free agency, you're going to have to know what kind of parameters you're spending on your top guy. So I would say March 12th, the beginning of free agency, they got to know what they're paying Brock Purdy. So I would call that the official, unofficial deadline. We're not there yet. It's a negotiation. I know the agent's going to try to do the best for his client, which is north of 60 million. I know that, the Niners are thinking 45 million, and I think you're going to see a compromise right around $56 million. So there you go. Welcome to Salt River. Can't wait. Giants coming up against the Diamondbacks, and we're going to be here for it.